Hi, I'm Rick Dior, and today I'm going to teach you how to change a classical tambourine head. So, as most of you know, orchestral tambourines have calf heads, and they do break. You can take an old calf head, like a bass drum head, and you can cut it up and make tambourine heads. I've been doing that for years. But for most of you who don't have calf heads lying around, this is your best option to buy these kits. And both Grover and Black Swamp make them. The Grover version is called the HK-10. All right, so they both come in a tube. And the Black Swamp version is called the THR-10. The 10 stands for the 10-inch tambourine. I believe they also make these in some different sizes, maybe an 8 and maybe even for a bigger tambourine. You can always buy an old calf head though and cut it up. Now you don't want the heads to be too thick and you don't want them to be too thin. Somewhere in the middle. The perfect head is a batter head for a snare drum. I've found those make the best tambourine heads. So when you open this Grover kit, out comes the head. And the heads are different that they supply for these things, but they're round. So this is for the 10-inch model. And most of the Grovers I've replaced with this particular kit that the students have brought me have been this kind of really white calf head. And the Black Swamps that I've replaced, see if I can get this out of here, have been more of a clear type of head. Almost looks like a Renaissance plastic head. So they're both calf heads, but you see that here. Now you can use any kind of skin head. You can use goat skin, kangaroo if you want. All right, but I found the Black Swamp heads to be a little bit tougher to work with, and the Grover heads to be much easier to work with. The Black Swamp heads tend to be thicker, and you have to soak them a little bit longer. Now, normally I soak these a couple hours in warm water, not hot water, but like a lukewarm kind of water, in the sink, and then you're ready to go. So that's the first step you want to do before you do any of this, because it's going to take a couple hours. Normally 2 hours or so. The tubes will come with some instructions. They're good. The instructions are really clear. This is really easy. Anybody can do it. The only part that we'll come across later that's difficult is mounting the head and keeping it on there while the glue dries. We'll talk about that in a second. So they'll both have these instruction sheets. I'll show you how I do it today, but the sheets are very, very similar. There's only a few ways to do this. I do have a few different things that help me do a little bit of a better job. So the first thing I'll do on this Grover tambourine is take these tacks out. To do that, you don't use a screwdriver like that. Use basically a paint scraper, which is much, much thinner, has almost a blade, but the blade is thick enough that you won't break it. And what you want to do is go around, and you see these tacks here, and you want to go around and put it in there. And sometimes you'll have to, hammer it in there, but normally they come out pretty easy. All right, so the next step is to take the head off. Now, if the head's a goner, you can just tear it off. I'm going to try to do this gently, because I may be able to use this on an 8-inch tambourine, but I doubt it. But this glue is pretty tight, and you can cut your hand pretty good, so just be careful. And at this point, I'll just take the whole thing off. All right, so that's it. All right, now you're left with this shell with remnants of the glue and parts of the head and whatnot. So what you need to do is get rid of these parts of the head that are on there. You can use your scraper lightly to do that. This one came off pretty clean. I've had them come off where they're really on there. And take like 220 grit sandpaper, fold it over, and what you're going to do is you're going to go around the head lightly. Don't use anything more than 220. We should be good to go. And clean it up real good. Now the last thing I do after I clean it up is I will take a little bit of denatured alcohol. It doesn't have to be denatured, but I have it here. And I will clean it up with that. And it dries really fast, just to make sure that glue is going to stick. A little more on there. Now, before we go here and take a break and soak the heads, there's a couple kinds of glue you can use. I like using woodworker's glue, and my favorite is this Titebond Bond 2. I'm not doing a commercial for them, but that's a really good glue. You can use Elmer's if you want. I like this. I use this for all my woodworking things. It's super strong. It dries quickly, and the applicator is perfect for tambourines because it kind of spreads it out. You will need some other things to spread out the glue. These long Q-tips work, as well as I have a tool here somewhere. I'll see if oh, here it is. This is something that you can use that will spread it. It has a little chamois, or chamois, as some people say, on here, where you can spread the glue around easier once you put it on with the Q-tip or the applicator. We're just about ready to put the head on, and there's a few more things you need to do before we're going to do that. So if you're going to put the tacks back on, what I would suggest is taking a Sharpie and marking the shell, especially a black one. You might want to use a brown one if you're doing this on a black swamp tambourine, and just mark right above the jingles with a dot where those tacks go, so you can use the same holes. That's really important, so you're not doing new holes, all right, which is a little bit tricky. So again, that's if you're going to put them back on. Just mark a little dot right below that, because when you put the head on and the glue, it's going to cover the old holes. All right, now the other thing you want to do is use some painter's tape, and just, you can do this in pieces. It doesn't need to be this thick, but you want to put that right below where the old glue was, where you see the wood. So you'll just go around, you cover the jingles, and that's so we don't get glue drips on the jingles or on the tambourine. A lot of that you can get up with alcohol or water, but the issue is that sometimes you miss some, and then it dries, and it's a pain to get off. So this is much easier. And then you'll just wrap the jingles too, all right? And you'll do this in separate pieces with separate pieces of smaller pieces of tape, like this. Painter's tape is good because it doesn't leave any residue. It's really easy to get off. And once again, all this will be covered by the new head once it's on there. So now we're ready with the head, and you see it here. I like to use the rough side. There's two sides normally in one of these heads, so there'll be a very kind of clear side that's smooth and a rough side. So I do that, and then I'll put the glue on the shell. I've put some on there already because it takes a while, and get it tacky, so just wait about, put it on there, wait about 5 minutes. And then you take the head and you put it on, and you leave about an inch all the way around the diameter of the tambourine. And we'll cut that away later. Now for this next part, I am going to use the big rubber bands. I know I told you that I use the small ones, but since you won't have these, I figured this is what you'll get with the kit. You'll need a helper with these. This is the hardest part. It's really tricky. So I've got my lovely wife here, Jennifer, and I don't think she wants to be seen on camera, so you'll see her hands. You got the hang of it. There you go. All right. Great. Now once you sort of get it on there, on the outer rim, you can tuck the head then. I think you're done.
You sure?
I think so, yeah. Thanks. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. You see my face some other time.
All right, so that's what it'll look like. Pretty rough, right? So once you get it like this, what you're going to do is you're going to go around and you're going to pull the head down. It's not going to want to sit flat. Remember, you still have some time because the glue takes a while to dry, so you're good. And then you're just going to pull out the wrinkles one at a time. And you're going to take that rubber band and get it right on the edge, and you're going to keep pulling it around or down, all the way around. And you'll notice one part of it, in this case here, will come up and be wrinkled just because of the nature of the head. That's why they call it tucking, because you're literally tucking it in. Now once you get it on there, you see how it's getting a little tighter, but there will be some spots that are suspect, a little longer in other words, like here, and that's okay. You just pull them out like that. And you just keep going around and you do the same thing. Now after you get it on there, you want to pull now from either side, if possible, like this. See what I'm doing? I'm going around and I'm pulling it like two hands of a clock. And I just keep going around. It's like star tuning on a snare drum, see? So that really gets it tight. So you want it to be pretty even all the way around. You see how that looks? Where it's even all the way around. The spot that has that snare bed thing, keep saying it, you're going to pull that even tighter than everything else. All right? Now the good news is this is going to dry slowly. You want to put it in a humid area, not real dry. You don't want it drying too fast. And sometimes, if it is really dry, I'll take a cloth and wet it slightly and put it over there so it dries slower. But it's pretty humid today. It's raining, so I think we're going to be fine. The humidity is about 60%. So this is looking good, and I like this head. It's nice. So you see here that it's perfectly tight, incredibly tight actually. And this tape's still around here, so you're not going to hear the jingles, but you hear the drum part of it, the frame drum. And it's perfect. So it may be even a little high. So if that's the case, you can get just a damp cloth and just do that on top. And you may have to keep doing that. Sometimes they get really tight, especially these thin heads. So the next step here is to take the rubber band off, because that glue is definitely dry after a day. And you'll check the seal all the way around, and it looks great. Now, I'm sure some of you are going to ask, why didn't you cut this off, the excess, before it got dry? Because it's harder to cut when it's dry. Well, then I wouldn't have anything to pull on, as you saw earlier with that pair of pliers in my hand. And also, the glue is not really dry, so when you cut that, it's going to shift. And so you won't get this really nice edge that I got here. So you want to wait to cut it off, all right? So what you'll do is you're going to take an X-Acto knife. There's several different kinds. Let's see, I had another one I pulled out here. So now these obviously are razor sharp, so you got to watch out. Sometimes I wear gloves when I do this. And any of these knives will work. And you're just using a really sharp, fresh blade. And you're going to go around. And you can actually see through this because the head is so thin. And you'll go around. You just follow it around. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Any questions, as always, just leave them in the comments or just email me. Thanks.